All right, now that we have added and subtracted expressions, we're going to go ahead and do a quick review of how to multiply expressions. So you might have heard of this method called the FOIL method. That is FOIL. That's how you spell FOIL, right? So I don't know if you remember this, but it means like first, outer, oh, look at me, spelling it wrong. Outer, inner, and last. And that pretty much is just a really nice way of remembering what to do when you multiply polynomials or expressions. But I'm going to tell you that you don't have to know this. I'm actually going to show you a way that works all the time. This way only works sometimes. So let me go ahead and get some examples written out for you, and then we'll jump in and I'll explain more. All right, so I'm back with some examples. I actually just recorded this whole thing and realized that my iPad was full and it stopped recording. So here is take 2. Maybe I'll go faster this time. I don't know. So this, I just want to start off pretty basic and do just some basic distributing before we talk about the whole FOIL thing again and everything. But what you see here is you still have 2 expressions. 3x is an expression, and 8x squared plus 3x minus 5 is another expression. And because they're right next to each other, that means they're being multiplied. So I think you all know how to do this, but we just call this distribution. It's just a fancy word for pass out. So 3x is going to get multiplied by the 8x squared, then it's going to get multiplied by the 3x, and then it's going to get multiplied by the negative 5. So if you do all of that, this is what you would get. This would be 24x cubed and then pass it out again, and you would get 9x squared. Pass it out again, and you would get negative, watch out for these negatives, negative 15x. Always do a final glance over, make sure there are no like terms, which were good here, and go ahead. If you ever want to check your answers, just pick a random number. It can be as easy as 1. Plug it in up here, write down what you get. Plug it in down here, write down what you get. They should always be the same. Just a little fact. Okay, so we're gonna pop over here. This is something more like what I want to review today. And what I talked about earlier was what's called the FOIL method. This is a perfect problem for the FOIL method, but the next example I'm going to show you is not. So you need to be able to do this multiplication problem as well as this multiplication problem, which is why I actually am not going to use the word FOIL when I show you how to do this. My way works for all of the ways, but I will review FOIL really quickly. So I already told you that FOIL stands for first, outer, inner, last. It's basically just a nice checklist so that you don't forget anything. There's a lot of multiplying going on here. So it says, hey, first, let's multiply the first terms. The first term times the first term. Write it down. And then multiply the outer terms, which would be this 3x and the negative 4. They're on the outside. Multiply them, write it down. Then do the inner terms, so the ones on the inside, the 2 and the x. Multiply them, write it down. Then do the last, which is 2 and 4, negative 4. Multiply them, write it down. Make sure there's no like terms, done. The reason that doesn't work over here is because these would be our first, outer, inner, it kind of gets messy, and last. And this guy doesn't really get any attention, which is going to mean your answer is not going to be right. So FOIL does not work here. So let's talk about a different way. My way that I'm going to show you is not like fancy. It doesn't have an acronym. It's literally just double distribution. So for the first example, we only had one guy out here to pass out. Now we have two guys to pass out. So we're going to pass out the 3x. Then we're going to come back and we're going to pass out the 2. So everyone over here gets multiplied by everybody over here. And everything works out well. So to help us, I'm going to use some highlighting. Okay, so we're going to focus on the 3x first and do 3x times x, where you would get 3x squared. And then we're going to do the 3x. We're going to pass it out to the negative 4, where you would get negative 12x. So that's the result of passing out the 3x. But we are not done because we didn't pass out the 2. So the 2 gets passed out to the x. 2 times x is pretty straightforward. It's just 2x. And then the 2 gets passed out to the negative 4. That would be negative 8. So you can see half of our resulting expression is from passing out the 3x, and half of it is from passing out the 2. And once you do both, you've got the whole thing. But here's the deal. We actually do have some common terms here, so we are not done. What we end up with is actually 3x squared. If you combine these, you would get negative 10x. And then this negative 8. That would be your final answer. So this and this are the same thing. If you plugged in a number, you would get the same answers. Okay, so what does that mean if you see something like this? Well, guys, it's the same thing. We're gonna pass the 2x out to 1, 2, 3. Then we're gonna pass the negative 2 out to 1, 2, 3. We're gonna end up with 6 terms down here. Probably have to do some combining, and then we'll be done. I'm actually gonna show you another method of writing all of your terms out, because the more stuff you have going on up here, the more complicated step 2 looks. And the way I'm going to show you is maybe a little simpler. You don't have to do it, but you might as well just see it. So, okay, we're going to multiply the 2x in first. So that would be 2x cubed. And then we're going to do the 2x times 5x. That would be 10x squared. Then we're going to do the 2x times the negative 1, which would be negative 2x. Okay, so all of this is a result of the 2x. Now we have to do the same thing with the negative 2. And this organization method, I'm actually going to make a second line for my second number. But I'm going to stack it in a way you'll see. Okay, so I'm going to do the negative 2 to the x squared, which would be negative 2x squared. So I'm actually going to stack that right there. And then I'm going to do negative 2 times 5x. Well, that's negative 10x. So I'm just starting a second line, and I'm just offsetting it. And then I'm going to multiply the negative 2 times the negative 1 and get positive 2. All right, so this second line is all from my pink. And if we were in class, I would ask you, does anyone know why I offset my 2 lines? And I'm hoping that some of you would say, oh, it's because you have the like terms already lined up. So I know that these get combined, and I know that these get combined. So I end up with 2x cubed plus 8x squared minus 12x plus 2. And all of a sudden, combining like terms is a no-brainer, especially because they're stacked. It would have worked over here too. Instead of writing it here, I just would have written 2x positive 2x minus 8. And I would have done 3x squared minus 10x minus 8. You can always stack them and offset them and it will work, okay? But what I'm hoping you understand now is that FOIL is really, really great, but it is limiting. And really all you're doing when you multiply expressions is you're going through one at a time and distributing each one separately and then combining at the end, okay? So get to the worksheet, get to reviewing, and I'll be back on Friday with a third video and a third worksheet for the week. And you are almost done with the school year. Congratulations.